So greetings, namaskar, and a very good morning to all present over here. I, Dr. Neelam Tandon, on behalf of Jagannath International Management School, Kalkaji, welcome all the esteemed dignitaries to this International Finance Seminar on Chasing the Horizon, Green Financial System on 8th of Jan 2022. Once again, a very warm good morning to all of you. As we know, climate change poses new challenges to central banks, regulators, and supervisors. However, integrating climate-related risk analysis into financial stability monitoring is particularly challenging because of the radical uncertainty associated with the physical, social, and economic phenomena that is constantly changing and involves complex dynamics and chain reactions. A growing body of research by academicians, central banks, and international institutions focuses on climate-related risks. These studies show that physical risk related to climate change can severely damage our economies. For example, risk related to climate change through the large cost of repairing infrastructure and coping with uninsured losses is humongous. These are also transition risks related to potentially disordering mitigation strategies, both physical and transition risks. In turn, can increase systemic and financial risk. Thus, their potential consequences have implications for central banks' financial stability, and they require to take a mandate on this. We have seen environmentally harmful business models are now facing the risk of depleting raw materials, less demand, and ultimately stranding financial assets. In other words, we need to develop a more robust and resilient sustainability-oriented market framework. This should be focused on banking institutions, investments, public finance institutions, and foreign direct investment in India. In a climate where customers, clients, and employees increasingly expect environmental measures, companies avoiding green technology are prone to sustainability risk. For this reason, businesses are setting more ambitious green technology goals and employing a significant amount of resources to meet them. Most companies are accessing the route of green bonds due to multiple factors as they are becoming more conscious of the environmental impact and social responsibilities. Secondly, the focus of investors has increased. And we can see today these instruments have led to major role-playing field in the market today. Over the last few years, Indian companies have become increasingly conscious of their carbon footprint and the impact of their businesses on all stakeholders, and are keen to explore environmental, social, and governance, that is ESG-linked bonds. And they are engaged in more sustainable business practices. Businesses since 2006 have raised $1.3 trillion through green bonds or credit supply. Issuance of green and ESG bonds have risen sharply in calendar year 2021. As Indian companies are engaging in more sustainable business practices, Indian companies raised nearly $7 billion through ESG and green bonds in 2021, compared to $1.4 billion and $4 billion in 2020 and 2019 respectively. In 2021, JSW Hydro, Greenco, Renew Power, and Adani Green were large issuers of green bonds. Similarly, Axis Bank, Additional Tier 1, Shriram Transport Finance, Adani Electricity Mumbai, and Ultratech Cement are among the larger fundraisers through ESG bonds. It can be concluded that by understanding and disclosing sustainability performance, business can play its part in transitional to a green economy. One, that is low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive, and with reduced credit risk for financial institutions. Hence, it is essential to acknowledge deep uncertainty and need for structural change to preserve long-term climate and financial stability given the climate and broader ecological imperatives ahead. According to the International Labour Organization estimates, the move to low carbon greener economies has the potential to create 60 million jobs by 2030. With this optimistic note, I would like to invite Dr. Satish Seth, advisor to JIM's chairman, Dr. Amit Gupta, to deliver a welcome address. Before that, I would take this opportunity to introduce Sir to the audience. Dr. Satish Seth is an advisor to JIM's chairman, Dr. Amit Gupta. He has had a long innings of 2 decades with JIMS, during which he was the director for 10 years and thereafter Director General for 7 years. Under his leadership, JIMS Kalkaji has ascended new heights and is today recognized as an institution of excellence for its robust partnership with industry, national organizations, and foreign universities. JIMS is currently ranked as the 24th best business school in India and has been awarded the prestigious NBA and NAC accreditations, as well as we are among 100 best as per NIF ranking 2021. An HR and specialist, strategy specialist, he has many research papers and book publications to his credit. He is a paper reviewer for Emerald Group Publishing, an academic advisor to the International Education Group Eureka, based in Dubai, and a visiting professor at the Cologne University of Applied Sciences, Germany. Sir, over to you.
Uh, Thank you very much, Neelam. Kind words, those. Uh, at the outset, let me extend a very warm welcome to all our distinguished guests here today. Mr. Bharat Musad, Chief Financial Officer, Mahindra and Mahindra. Thank you, sir, for being here today to participate in our key event. It's a very important event for us in our annual calendar. Also, very warm welcome to distinguished guests who have already joined us here today, Dr. Raj Singh, Professor Tripathi. We also have, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Vishesh from PhD Chamber. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here today. And to all others who will be tuning in a little later and will be participating in the technical session subsequent to this. Uh, Director Jims, faculty members, and my very dear students. Good morning and a very warm welcome. Today's seminar topic, Chasing the Horizon, Green Financial System, a very important topic, a very topical issue. And in fact, it's an issue which deeply, not only deeply impacts India, but countries the world over and needs to be viewed in an overall perspective. I'll just give a few thoughts on that before I pass it on to the experts who have gathered here today to, give their views and perspectives on this important issue. As India is struggling, to lift millions out of poverty, it is going to be hit hard also, almost more than any other nation in terms of natural calamities, whether it be storms, floods, heat waves, etc. So collectively, all this what is going to be put at risk is about 4%, 4.5% of annual GDP, which in US dollars is about 2.8 trillion. I've also gone through a recent report by Climate Policy Initiative, which came out in 2020. So as per this report, it reveals that against the USD 170 billion per year required investments by India to finance its climate action, the total green finance over the last few years is a little over 10%, just about USD 19 billion. And that is, an average across all sectors. So this really shows, one can infer, of course, the figures could be a little different from what Neelam has been mentioning. This is a 2020 report. I'm sure green finance investments have been a little more than what I've been mentioning as per this report. But what infers and needs to be understood from this is that we really need a very transformational upscaling of green finance across all low carbon sectors, this country. And the investments to date, really do not match what should be our targets, in order to ensure that effective climate change measures are instituted, across the country. This particular CPI report, it has also suggested that what India needs is a integrated domestic measurement, reporting, and verification system to streamline green finance tributes, to identify financial constraints, and also to enhance overall transparency. It points out that while there is increasing data on air pollution, emissions, and green job creation in India, however, there is little comprehensive information available on whether or not the financial sector in the country today, how it's keeping pace with India's green economic, development goals. Also, whether which sectors are being financed adequately or are underserviced today. This information, if it were available, it would prove valuable for policy and investment advisors who are working to scale up day and night, sustainable and transformational impact in the country. Uh, as a final point, let me draw attention to the fact that the government's target, for 2022, by 2022, it has a target of 1,75,000 megawatt of renewable energy by 2022. But look at the gap. The total installed capacity of renewable energy across India is just about 40% of that, 88,000, around 88,000 megawatts. So it's a large gap. How it's expected to be, reduced is a very key issue. And I'm sure all experts who are gathered here today will certainly possibly be addressing this particular issue. And we hope that there'll be some views and perspectives which will help to mitigate and ensure that all the measures, investments we are taking place will bear fruit, in the if not in the short term, at least in the medium term. And we are really on our way forward to ensuring that this climate change is effectively handled in the country. So with that, I wish the seminar very best and keenly look forward to hearing the experts. Thank you very much, Mr. Musad, for being here today. And thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commander Sir, for sharing your valuable view and telling us that what are the constraints we are having in the terms of financial constraints and how to strengthen in green technology. And you have rightly pointed out that 1.75 megawatts of renewable energy 2022 Government of India is targeting for, and there's a huge gap. So these are the challenges which we have. I hope the dignitaries on the dais will be giving us huge insight to the topic today. So before I call Bharat sir for his expert views and to get more insights about, I would like to share about Bharat sir. He's our chief guest for the day. Sir is Chief Financial Officer and Chief Information Officer at Mahindra and Mahindra. He has about 34 years of experience in financial and fundraising management. His enriched experience includes board and stakeholder management, including joint venture management with shareholders, fund providers, and central state governments. He's an alumni of IIMS Ahmedabad 1984-86 batch, where his specialization is in the areas of finance and strategy. He's a chartered accountant and have been with the Mahindra Group for the last 8 years, handling Chief Financial Officer role and the Chief Information Officer digital role also at the business level as well as at the corporate level. He has also been involved in running several startups of Mahindra Group, right from incubation, fundraising to the current stable state. During this period, he has been extensively involved in capital structuring, including raising of debt and equity, private equity for startups. Apart from this, he has actively handled government license work at the senior most levels in the government. In terms of international assignments, he has worked with General Motors in Singapore, where he was responsible for Asia Pacific operations for corporate finance, treasury, and banking, including fundraising. Bharat sir, kindly share your views on green financial system. Thank you for sparing your valuable time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neelam. Thank you for those kind words. So at the outset, let me compliment and congratulate James for holding this very topical and very timely session on green finance, and coming a few months after the COP26 in Glasgow, which sets the agenda. It's I think it's one of the most burning, challenging topic, as well as very important for us professionals in the field of finance to address, the operating needs, as well as make sure that the all the challenges are made by providing adequate support and financing to the whole initiative. And I know there's a really a big challenge in front of India also in terms of renewable energy. But at the same time, let me point out that a few years back, there was this Paris meet on climate change, and whereas some targets were set for various countries, and India also was given a target for renewable energy to be done by 2030. So what was the target of 2030? India has already achieved that by 2022. So that is a very big achievement by India. But at the same time, of course, this is like good progress, but a lot more needs to be done so that we kind of we make sure that we are insulated from climate change and all the things, all the vagaries which come with that. And also, I'd like to thank Dr. Seth and Dr. Neelam for setting the context very nicely, and providing very deep insights on this subject. So that was at the macro level. So on the micro level, let me say, on firstly to start with the firms where I have operated, during the last 35 years, and particularly my almost a decade with the Mahindra Group. And increasingly, we have seen that there's a focus for sustainable projects, for the green projects, which wasn't there, frankly, before this particular decade. And what I have seen, as we review various projects, that the projects which are relating to sustainability, or the which promote sustainability, ESG, there the returns are substantially above the cutoff. So initially, let me tell you, I mean, we started very conservatively. We said, okay, we'll put a lower cutoff because we wanted to promote the green projects. Because, we said that, should not happen that some of these projects get rejected because of the higher cutoff or a higher discounting factor. So, I mean, because, and logically also it made sense because the cost of financing for such projects is lower because you get the concessional financing for that. But to our surprise, when the project was over, we found that, I mean, not only did it meet the cutoff, but it was substantially above the cutoff. So that would give a lot of confidence, I am sure, to the firms and various industries, that green finance or green projects are not only good for the environment, I mean, they promote ESG, but at the same time, good for the financials also of the company. They promote the overall ROI, and a series of such projects we have seen has gone on to improve our cost of production, which has improved our operating margins as well. So apart from the all the other things, what Dr. Neelam pointed out, Dr. Seth pointed out, the overall operating margin of the firm level also improves. Now coming to the financial institutions, and financial institutions, I have seen that they have also now started allocating specific funds for ESG projects, and I mean, promoting it. My suggestion would be that as they evaluate various projects, this ESG part should be made mandatory. So any project which is detrimental to the environment, or in fact even not promoting ESG, they should not finance it, so that the firms are forced to kind of implement ESG in every project which they do, and that way it will really promote. And another thing is that, of course, the bigger financial institutions I know are seized on this task. The microfinance also they are doing it, but I think the micro financial institutions, because going forward the micro financial institutions will hold the key, particularly for MSMEs, and and we find that a lot of MSMEs are lagging behind, because they think that these projects will maybe hamper their finances, wrongly so, as we have seen in our experience in Mahindra. But the micro lending institutions also should emphasize the ESG factor and, in fact, provide a lower cost of finance for particularly for MSMEs if those projects promote ESG. So that would, from the institutional side, also support the various initiatives. And lastly, from the investors' perspective, we have already seen that there are a lot of funds, whether in the private equity or venture capital space or the other funds as well, that they are having a clear preference for ESG projects and such companies. And because of that, these kind of companies attract a higher PE values, and higher PE, of course, means higher valuation, higher returns for the investors, and gives a much better valuation. So to that extent, it really is beneficial, from an investor's perspective, and specific green initiative projects and funds are now coming to the foray. But at the same time, the normal funds also, I've seen that they, amongst the portfolio of funds which they have, a portfolio of companies they have, they are giving a clear preference to the companies which are following the ESG initiatives very clearly, and leading to a clear bias towards the to the companies which are having ESG as their kind of, as their or sustainability as their clearly defined principle, and leading to a growth for everyone, for the investors, for the firm, as well as for the institutions which are funding them. So again, as I said, it's a very need of the hour kind of a topic which has been chosen by James, and I would compliment Dr. Neelam, Dr. Seth, and all the faculty and the students for taking it on today, and really look forward to a very enlightened discussion on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And it is really creditable. It is only because of your leadership that Mahindra could opt for green projects and could get that level of threshold, reduce the cost, and make it sustainable. I believe that you will be setting example for many other firms to follow it, and it will be kind of incentive for others to take it forward. And you have rightly quoted that it should be made mandatory by financial institutions to go for funding only to those projects which are followed in ESG as per the ESG norms. And investors also get higher P values. I believe the norm is changing, and investors are also becoming quite aware about and getting sensitized about that. Yes, we have to go for environment friendly firms which are practicing. This is how entire ecosystem will be developed, I believe, very soon in India, and will set a benchmark for others in the world. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable views, and we will look forward for many more interactions with you in future also. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neelam. Look forward.
Thank you, sir. So I now take this opportunity to invite Professor Nalini Pravathripati. I am Shillong. She's a professor at IIM Shillong, for sharing her views on challenges of green financial system and low carbon economy. But before I invite ma'am, I would like to introduce her to the audience. Professor Nalini Pravathripati is a professor in the area of finance and accounting at IIM Shillong. Prior to joining IIM Shillong, she was an associate professor of finance at Indian Institute of Management, Indore. She obtained D.Litt degree in MBA, and she is a Fulbright scholar to visit USA. She has 28 years of teaching, corporate research, and consultancy experience. Her work has been published in ABDC, Scopus, and Web of Science journals. She is the author of over 90 scholarly research papers. She is also the author of 8 books. Her current research interest includes areas of financial economics, corporate financial issues in emerging markets, business valuation, stock and derivative markets, risk management. She is on the expert panel member selection committee of NITs, central universities, leading private institutions, public sector undertakings, and Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. She is also on the Board of Governors, Academic Advisory Board, and Board of Studies of business schools and universities. She has been conferred MA Award for Excellence in Commerce and Business Management by Indian Commerce Association. She has been awarded membership of the Global Research Institute for Business Academics, Australia, in recognition of outstanding achievement and contribution to the body of knowledge and research. She has conferred Distinguished Faculty Award jointly by Indo-Global Chamber of Commerce Industries, Agriculture and Confederation of Indian Universities, and Women Management Researcher Award and Gold Medal for AIMS International Outstanding Management Research Award. She has received Silver Medal by Association of Indian Management Schools for J.L. Batra Best Research Paper Award. She has conducted numerous corporate training programs on wide-ranging finance topics and management topics for senior level managers, officers from public, private, and government organizations. She has presented research papers in international conferences at Seoul, Colombia, New York, Sydney, Dubai, London, Oman, Boston, Paris, Singapore, and Malaysia. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are honored to have you today with us.
Thank you.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Panilam, giving a wide introduction about me. Good morning to one and all. Distinguished speakers, Mr. Bharatji, and Dr. Amitji, Dr. Satishji, Dr. Raj Singhji, and Professor Nilam, and eminent scholars, colleagues, dear students, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank Professor Nilam for giving this opportunity to share my views in this international finance seminar on chasing the horizon in financial system. I must say, like others, they have already also spoken, the topic is a very good one, and it is important, the right time for discussing the green finance today. So the topic chosen for today's deliberation is a very important one, and I believe the deliberations and discussions will give new perspectives and innovative solutions to the many challenges we are facing today on environmental issues, social concerns, and transparent governance. I would like to talk on green financial system and low carbon economy, which Professor Nilam has mentioned. I would like to brief about at the very initial level what are the initiatives and development has been taken place in India, and what more we have to do, and what strategy we need to take to become low carbon economy. As you know, all of us, the world is facing today top 5 climate-related risks such as extreme weather, climate actions failure, natural disasters, biodiversity loss, and human-made environmental disasters. The current climate imbalance warning us the miserable future. Apart from extreme climate-induced natural disasters, the natural capital of our country is also diminishing at a faster pace. So how do you address these harmful effects? So we have to create a eco-friendly models, that's green finance, which is need of the hour today, which is also mentioned by our distinguished speakers, Mr. Bharatji. To achieve the green financial system and low carbon economy and achieving the sustainable SDG goals, Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, the policymakers, the governments, and the researchers are continuously seeking solutions which can provide ecological balance along with economic development. Further, to ensure our commitment to the 2015 Paris Agreement and the recent to the COP, which is also mentioned by the Mr. Bharatji, and SDG goals, we must give priority to green finance and need to incorporate sustainable mandates in our investment decisions. Green finance not only promotes economic growth, but also improve environmental benefits. Banking sector today plays a crucial role in the sustainable development of our country and promotes environmentally sustainable and social responsible investments. To meet these financial needs for the environmental sustainable projects, green bonds, green banks, and green funds are being already established. We are at the crossover of a green revolution. Several fiscal and financial initiatives taken in line with India's commitment under the Paris Agreement. India has made a commitment to reduce greenhouse emissions by 33 to 35% from 2005 level of emissions, increase the share of non-fossil fuel-based electricity to 40%, and enhance forest cover to 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide by 2030. The Reserve Bank of India also taken proactive policy measures to promote green financial initiatives. The small renewable energy sector is now entitled to get loans up to 30 crores, and the households are eligible up to 10 lakh for investing in renewable energy under its priority sector lending schemes. In the context of green financial institutions, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency promoting clean energy investments and become India's first green bank in May 2016. Many banks today, such as the SBI, PNB, Bank of Baroda, ICICI Bank, SDFC Bank, Axis Bank, already undertaken various environmentally and socially sustainable initiatives. Green bonds were also already issued by Yes Bank, since Professor Neelam has also mentioned. That means green bonds since 2015 onwards, it was issued by Yes Bank, Indian Renewable Energy Development Agencies, Power Finance Corporations, Indian Railway Finance Corporations, Adani Renewable Energies, Renew Powers, and further corporate and government. The World Bank has issued green bonds towards several projects in India from time to time. As of February 2020, the outstanding amount of green bonds in India was US 16.3 billion US dollars. As of 2021, India has the second largest emerging green bond market after China. Although the value of green bonds issued in India constitute a very small portion of the total bond issuance, but India maintained a favorable position compared to several advanced and emerging economies. But of course, looking at domestic country point of view, green bonds market has not been able to diversify itself much in terms of assets. Indian banks and financial institutions such as SBI, ICICI, Axis Bank, SDFC are among the largest global financial institutions also funding fossil fuel projects. SBI aims to become carbon neutral by 2030 and taken a number of initiatives to reduce its carbon impact by installing solar plants, tree plantations, organic farming as well. In May 2021, SBI and the European Investment Bank together launched a new initiative to finance high-impact climate actions and sustainable business in India. However, Indian banks have yet to implement policies to reduce their own emissions. Out of the 8 Indian banks, only IDFC First Bank confirmed a policy commitment to mitigating climate change. The UN Environmental Programme issued principles for responsible banking in 2019 to guide banks to consider the environmental and social impact projects while lending. Currently, 252 banks are signatories to these principles, but Yes Bank being only the one from India so far signatory to these principles. The SBI, the State Bank of India, also finances coal plants. It finances 1.57 lakh crore in fossil fuel finance between 2016 and 2020, but not made any net zero emissions commitment. climate change intensely affecting our societies and economies. Climate change is not only an environmental issue today, it is a threat to the financial system as well. Its effect bring about huge economic cost and financial instability. And you must be knowing India is ranked the 5th vulnerable nations to the effect of climate change. The World Bank estimates that climate change will reduce India's GDP by nearly 3% and adversely affect the living standards of half the country's population by 2050. The ILO, International Labour Organizations, forecast that there will be a loss of 34 million full-time jobs, primarily farmers, by 2030 due to increasing temperatures in India. So in this particular situation, we require an immediate changeover to a low carbon economy to avoid economic losses and safeguarding the stability of our financial system. We require a more intense focus on financial system and highly essential to sensitize India's financial sector about the importance and benefits of green finance. India's journey to net zero will be thriving only on green finance. We need to create a dedicated ecosystem for domestic manufacturing of carbon neutral technologies. Green bonds issue needs to be scaled up. We must focus more on green finance, which can play a crucial role in making India's economy resilient to climate change impact. Now we are talking about the planet-saving decarbonization. So the decarbonization journey in India, which you are talking about, needs huge investment to support research and development in climate-friendly technologies to scale up low-carbon technologies. As per RBI reports in 2019, the public finance will not be able to meet the large capital requirements. Hence, a significant share must come from the private sector, banks, and capital markets and external financial flows for climate investments. We need green growth. We need to pursuing simultaneously economic growth through investments in green industries and technologies, creation of new green financial products, improving the environment. We need green technology to support our green growth. If we are talking about go green, it means tendency should cover all of finances. So banking can add eco-friendly component to all products wherever it is possible. If we want to promote the economy, we must develop the use of financial technology to avoid economic uncertainty. Sustainable digital finance can solve a low carbon economy to greater extent. Digital finance is the integration of the big data, artificial intelligence, mobile platforms, cloud computing, blockchain, and the Internet of Things. Further, sustainable finance integrating environmental, social, and governance criteria, ESG criteria, in investment decisions. Technology can also help to raise consumer awareness about the environmental and social implications of the consumptions and investment decisions. Sustainable digital finance can promote the sustainable economic growth. Now, the financial institution and the fintech companies in various countries, I'm just giving a little bit example of the other, the leading countries of the world. The financial institutions and fintech companies of the other countries, let us say in the world, especially the Europe and the United States and the China, integrate financial technology by using blockchain, artificial intelligence, big data, and IoTs, combining green finance to carry out green finance technology. The reason is that the big data and machine learning may be useful to standardize green reporting system, making easier to monitor green investment. Digitization can reduce the challenges associated with search, monitoring, and verification cost for the sustainable projects. Digital sensing technology, such as the satellites, the drone, can be used to monitor sustainability metrics across the investments. The spatial finance initiative can be taken to integrate geospatial data and analysis in financial decision-making process. Now it is high time for the fintech startups, the regulators, and the governments to collaborate to direct significant cash flow towards decarbonizations. Such type of collaboration is already found in US, that is to the NASDAQ. Already the NASDAQ joined hands with Finnish firm Fortum to create an excessive trading platform for the carbon removal credit. And the American Banker Association partnered with 10 financial trade companies to release standards for financing the transition to a low carbon economy. The investment banks, the neobanks, and the newest lending institutions worldwide are investing heavily in building carbon offset portfolios and eco-friendly innovations. We believe that sustainable digital finance can play an important role in India to channelizing the capital to fuel innovations, growth, and job creations, and also supporting to a sustainable low carbon economy. Now it is also equally high time for us to consider green banking policy instruments such as macroprudential policy, microprudential policy, market making policies, and credit allocation policies in order to have a low carbon economy. I mean to say the green market prudential policy can help the banks to encourage to make more green investments. The capital and liquidity requirements under the Basel III Accord do not require banks to evaluate the impacts of climate risk on their balance sheet now. It is high time to consider the climate and environmental risk framework for assessing the impacts. The green microprudential policy can help banks to include information disclosure of climate-related financial risk and implementations of environmental and social risk. Regulators can also play a market-making role to promote green investments and operations. Regulator can develop sustainable finance guidelines, facilitate the banks to address the environmental issues. It also needs to develop green bond guidelines, and green bonds can be exclusively used to finance green projects only. Green credit allocation policy also need to frame to promote lending and investment towards climate sensitive sectors such as agriculture, energy, and water. Moreover, I would like to say we need change in the financial ecosystem, how the projects are rated, how the green finance is certified, and the policy framework to make investment in new energy sectors attractive. RBI can implement policy for minimum proportion of bank lending to the climate and environmental related sectors. And also it can create concessional green refinancing windows and concessional loans to the banks to lend to climate sensitive sectors to manage the climate risk. Also, as I have talking about the net zero, I mean, it's extremely important for India today, and by 2070, we have been targeted to achieve it. To reach the net zero, we must decarbonize. We need to concentrate on the sectors which release the most carbon, such as the fertilizer production, cement makings, and steel productions. These sectors are vital to the economy and strong job creators. We need to integrating the hydrogen into the economy and infrastructure to reducing the carbon dioxide emissions. Hydrogen economy can create thousands of jobs, leveraging and reskilling the existing skilled workforce. This initiative can help us for future net zero economy. India is in a race to accomplish the climate goals. However, we need a cohesive approach and shared vision among policymakers, regulators, and participants in the financial sector. We should develop a unified approach for ESG investments, green guidelines, financial products, as well as define the role of private sectors, public sectors, bankers, asset management companies, asset managers to make the financial system green and climate resilient. And there is a lot of scope is also available to take up the research in this area and to give a right kind of information to the policymakers. What should we like to take for the future to protect from the, in order to have a green financial system and climate resilient economy. So this is all about my views. Thanking you.
Thank you so much, Nalini ma'am. It reflects from your each and every sentence that you have immense and vast experience, and you are a highly literate person, the way you have shared, learned person, I would say. And you have touched every aspect, whether it is about from the banks or from economy, from manufacturing front, all, and how prudential system to be fiscal front, monetary front, all fronts to be taken care together. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable views. And I believe it will be total transformation if we can go for collaborating all the institutions together, policymakers together, and working for this to create a low carbon economy. So thank you so much, and we look forward for many more association and your presence on this platform in future also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nilam. Thank you, Nilam.
Thank you. Now I would invite Dr. Raj Singh sir, Professor of Practice, University of California, Riverside. But before I invite sir, I would like to introduce sir to the audience. Dr. Singh graduated with a BS in Engineering from the University of Allahabad, India, and completed a Masters of Engineering in Industrial Development and Management from the Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, Thailand. After completing graduate work in Thailand, he taught in India for 1 year and then immigrated to United States. He attended University of Southern California in Los Angeles, California, where he completed the degree of engineer in Industrial and Systems Engineering, Master of Science, and a PhD in Policy Planning and Administration. Dr. Singh has been employed in professional engineering and managerial positions and served as a consultant for several large organizations such as Rockwell, Northrop, ITT, Litton, Hunter Industries, and the country of Los Angeles. He has taught at the graduate and undergraduate level for over 25 years and has been a faculty member in the School of Business Administration at the University of California, Riverside for over 15 years. In addition, Dr. Singh has taught PhD level courses in strategy, statistical research, operations management, organizational behavior, and human resource management for other major universities in the United States. While at UCR, he has received the Golden Apple Award 3 times for teaching excellence. During his teaching career, he has chaired over 25 doctoral dissertations. Dr. Singh is founder of La Sierra Group based in Riverside, California. He has co-authored a textbook in crime analysis and has published several articles in the field of management. He served as an editor-in-chief of a management journal published by Hope International University and has been a reviewer for other management journals. His experience includes lecturing in China, France, India, Philippines, South Korea, and Hungary. Sir, we are honored to have you with us. Please share your views.
Thank you, Dr. Tandon. Thank you for the introduction. By now, I even forgot some of the places I've been, but thank you so much for the reminder with my bio. Thank you so much. So good morning to everyone from Riverside here in California. It's a nice place here. It's a beautiful evening. So I want to thank Dr. Said, Dr. Sharma, and Dr. Tandon for the opportunity to participate in this seminar about the green finance system. I think it's a very timely topic. We talk about these issues here in the US very frequently. So thank you so much for inviting me and asking me to share my views and thoughts about the green finance system. I'll share my thoughts briefly about what, just a review of what this green finance is and the importance, why it is of importance to countries all around the world. It's a very important topic. If you listen to the news, there's so much changes in the environment, which is what this relates to. So I think it's a very important topic, and I appreciate you for letting me share my thoughts. Now, green finance, you already know and may know, is any financial activity, which is a lot, created to ensure a desired environmental, particularly environmental outcome. It includes loans, debt mechanisms, investments, and also these are used to encourage the development of green projects so that we can have a better environment worldwide, and every country affects other countries, or minimize the impact of the climate of more regular projects. Now, typical projects that fall under this green finance umbrella include, for example, renewable energy efficiency. So a lot of focus here in the US on renewable energy and energy efficiency, from homes to factories to offices, places like that. Pollution prevention and control. So if you buy a car here in California, it's going to be a lot more expensive compared to some of the other states where population is less. California is most populated state in the United States. So here, emission control requirements are a lot more. So it's more expensive to make those requirements for car owners, for example. Pollution prevention and control, biodiversity conversion, circular economy initiatives, that is taking place quite a bit in circular economy. All materials should be used in such a way that they can be cycled indefinitely, and just as they theoretically can in nature. So this is becoming very common, from plastics to papers to things to create circular economy. And sustainable use of natural resources and land, something that can go on for years and years to come. So this is becoming very common here in the US to more focus on sustainable use of natural resources, from starting from cotton to any kind of products that the companies may produce, basically be able to reuse them and be able to sustain for the future. Now, let's talk about why is green finance important. It is because green finance promotes and supports the flow of financial instruments and related services towards the development and implementation of sustainable business models, investments, trade, economic, environmental, and many social projects and policies. So this becomes very critical to really pay attention to green finance. The financial sector plays a very important role through its intermediary financial functions and risk management, as it was pointed out earlier, to advance sustainable economic development based on, and as I think all of us are mostly familiar with, that what happened in global financial crisis in 2006 lasted until about 2009. So we became more aware of a really global warming, which is a reality today. It's affecting many countries all over the world. In fact, there's a news that some of the cities may disappear if the trend does not reverse. Need for sustainable business practices. Green finance initiatives have also been addressing in the 2030 sustainable SDG, a Sustainable Development Goals agenda of the United Nations, which I think people familiar all over the world, and a lot of focus here in many universities in the United States by emphasizing the shift of focus from shareholders, value creation, which is more money part of it, to the generation of stakeholders value, which is economic, environmental, and social, not only focus on economy or increasing the value of stock prices. So this is something here, for example, in the US, some people will not buy stocks in companies that may be detrimental to environment. They're more socially responsible, so may invest in companies that are more environmentally conscious and socially responsible, along with creating value for the shareholders. So these are the kinds of thoughts going around. It's becoming more common in the US. Now, some thoughts, some closing thoughts on these issues, and some of the things that I was going to talk about. Dr. Tripathi has stressed many of those more specific to India. So after about a decade of practical achievements in green finance, one could be cautiously optimistic. For example, I'm sitting in my house, and in my house, we are planning to have solar panels. So here, for example, in the US, we get tax incentive to install solar panels in our houses. The lights in front of my house, those are basically solar lights. So we don't have to really use the electricity. It's just the solar panels we are planning to install. So all the electricity will come from solar panel generate electricity, and the lights in front are from solar lights. So this is now why we are planning to do that here in my house, because we get tax incentives and lots of benefit for installing the solar panels. Though it's still far from the volumes required to support the implementation, as all of us know, of the Paris Treaty and Sustainable Development Goals strategy. The investments needs to be estimated about $60 trillion by 2030. Nowhere close, but I think efforts have been made in many countries, many places, including in India, as it has been already talked, and here in the US. Now, the experience is showing that the interest to develop this new social responsible project funding is rising. And I can speak particularly here in the US among the banking community, private investors, and public authorities. There's lots of interest and lots of incentive for banks to loan these kinds of funds for people to use for green technologies and help the clients. So the importance of green finance system is critical for sustainability, as we have already talked about. With this, I will conclude my remarks, and thanks to everyone for attention. And once again, my sincere appreciation, Dr. Tandon, for this opportunity to share my thoughts about the green finance system. And again, best wishes for the success of the seminar. And once again, thank you all. Thank you so much, Dr. Saif, Dr. Sharma, and Dr. Tandon for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Raj Singh. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have shared not only from Indian perspective, but from US also. And that was a altogether new insight for all of us about knowing about how US is also practicing green. And the most important thing what you shared was about why green finance is so important today. Let it be for maybe business, may it be for economy, may it be for society, may it be for future generation or for the sustainability today and future. All it is very, very important for all of us to realize this, that green finance can be lifeline for all the stakeholders, whether it is about investors or whosoever it is, any of the stakeholders. So thank you so much for sharing your views. And as Commander Sir has said, that we look for your presence in international seminars, conferences, which we organize every year. And to share with you, sir, we also have at GEMS solar heater where we are practicing green, we go for green, and we have a vision also of promoting green. So
wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Tandon.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Bmk Gupta, sir. Before I call sir, I would like to introduce sir to the audience. Mr. Bmk Gupta is DGM, Punjab National Bank at Delhi Zonal Office, New Delhi. He's working as a DGM Punjab National Bank for last, he's associated with the bank for 38 years. He did his graduation in commerce and is a fellow of the Institute of Cost and Work Accountant. He has over 38 years of banking experience in fields of banking services, branches, administrative offices. He has headed large corporate branch as well as dealt with the large corporate account at the corporate level in PNB. His field of expertise is in costing and profitability in the banking industry, credit management and administration, finance and taxation, and recovery management. He has also been instrumental in training bank officers on costing and profitability in the banking industry, credit management and administration, finance and taxation and recovery management for more than 30 years, and has also been honorary faculty at the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants for various subjects. Sir, we are honored to have you here, and we would like to know more about from your perspective about green banking in India.
Thanks, Neelam, for giving such a detailed introduction of myself. Actually, I welcome to all the participants, and I'm delighted to have a interaction on the subject given to me. But before that, I want to give a brief introduction of my bank, Punjab National Bank. Punjab National Bank is 127 years young, and it is it was being established by our esteemed freedom fighter Lala Lajpat Rai ji. So this is having great history of the bank. Now the topic given to me is the green banking initiatives taken by PNB so far. See, the actual thing is there that global warming is increasing day by day. Tensions are there on the subject, but the initiative taken by PNB is large. Punjab National Bank is financing the various projects which are the energy efficient and having the zero emissions of this carbon. In this case, the PNB is financing for the last 30 years the hydropower projects, particularly the wind power project also. In some cases, we have seen the failures also, and in most of the cases, we have seen the success also. And now we are also shifting to the solar power system. Many of the companies are approaching to us for financing of the solar power so that they can get the energy at their own. So we are giving the finance to the solar power projects at a cheaper level and at a very comfortable rate of interest. Now, as is being said by our earlier speakers, for giving it to the society also. So now bank is also encouraging the finance to the retailers, particularly the e-vehicles. That is in the previous year, 2021, the e-vehicles has been doubled in the country as compared to the previous year. And we are seeing a lot of scope in the next coming 5 years as the old vehicles, 10 years diesel vehicles and 15 years petrol vehicles are to be scrapped out. So society is asking for the green vehicles, and Punjab National Bank is financing the e-vehicles or the other CNG efficient vehicles at a quite competitive rate. This is nearing about 6.60% or 7% somewhere. Now the new thing is coming, the e-homes. E-homes means the homes which are requiring the zero carbon emission. They should be having the solar power, they should be having the lesser waste, and in this green home equity loans, we are quite comfortable. Now this is the new thing for the banking sector. And again, the green commercial buildings is being financed by us. These are the energy efficient, which are having the less waste, or waste is being reduced and less pollution is there. Punjab National Bank has also gone up for the digital banking. All the things are now being digitalized. Now people can apply us over the e-system. They have not to visit to the branches or the bank's offices, and they can apply our e-system, and we are also sanctioning over the e-system. Now the other introduction given by the bank, as Dr. Nalini has earlier said regarding the fintech, I am glad to say that Punjab National Bank has established a fintech division in September 2021, which will help in improvement in the operational efficiency, less state, there is a turnaround time, cost reduction, and the manpower reductions. So Punjab National Bank is very prominent in financing of for the green banking initiatives taken by us. Similarly, we are also giving the finance to the service providers who are encouraging the green products. And those units which are engaged in manufacturing of the items related to the zero emissions, or encouraging the this is, I can say, the products which are zero emissions. So in that case, the bank is also giving a good support. So this is the support which the Punjab National Bank is giving, and more we are coming for the new products. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And that was a very nice statement you quoted about the PNB's age. It is the youngest in terms of age. I hope legacy carries on like this for decades and decades of PNB.
No, this will continue, madam. This will continue.
Yes, yes. As long as leaders like you are there, it will sure continue like this. Okay, and what you have shared about the different categories of green products PNB is offering,
Yeah.
whether it is about e-vehicles, green homes, green commercial buildings, companies which are producing or promoting green products in terms of services also, you are giving them preference. And that is what was the theme of today's topic, that how banks are taking care about promoting such players, those who are going for more green. And this is how it will help India to become more green and sustainable for the long-term basis. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable views, and we'll look for, sir, some sessions of yours related to credit and other streams also from the banking domain. You have the hardcore experience, so you can add some more value to all of us.
Definitely, madam. Thank you. Thank you, Nalini.
Thank you.
Thank you, participants. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce CA Nitin Vashishta, sir, Director of Finance, PhD, Chamber of Commerce, to the audience. Mr. Nitin Vashisht is BTech, MCom, LLM, Fellow Chartered Accountant, MBA Finance. His core competencies are in accounting and financial management, controllership and decision support, financial planning and analysis, and strategic planning. Complex business and tax issues, audits and controls, treasury and cash management, business planning and analysis development, and implementation of SOPs for finance, legal, and operations. Performance, measurement project management, Scrum project management, Six Sigma operations, management global operations, efficiency, fintech. He has many publications to his credit in the areas of contract labor licensing, IFRS, key facets, guide for buyers before buying properties, private placement, meaning and procedure to issue share under Companies Act 2013, restrictions on private companies to accept deposits from relatives of directors under Companies Act 2013, general corporate responsibility, reverse charge and joint charges as per service tax rules, arbitration in India, highlights direct tax proposal 15 and 16. Thank you so much, Nitin sir, for being here. It's an honor for all of us to have you here.
Thanks, Dr. Tandon, for giving me the opportunity to come on this platform. And thanks, Dr. Satish, Dr. Ashok Sharma, and thanks all the dignitaries present here. And thanks to all listeners. A very good morning to all of you. I will be speaking on two topics today. One is drivers of climate-related financial risk, factors for firms and investors' preference to innovative green financial products. Let me tell you, being the officer on the ground and facing it all the transition happening in this, from industry perspective. So I'll be very short, and we'll be speaking from the perspective of the industry, how we actually face it happening. Because I'll not go into the theories, because you guys, you have all the dignitaries, they know better than me, because theories, but I have faced it happening. So I'll give you the live examples. So as you know, let us start with green financial instrument. Basically, green financial product, as we all know, are financial products offered to consumers and businesses that either provide environmental benefits or reduce negative environmental impacts. Examples you can include green car loans, energy efficiency mortgages, green credit cards, etc. Now, EEMs, if I say energy efficiency mortgages, this was incentivized, and this scheme was implemented in a very beautiful manner by the government. Like this, they launched the Ujala scheme. Now they are replacing the electric vehicles, replacing the petrol vehicles, fossil fuel vehicles with the electrical vehicles. It is in a very systemized and in a very, planned manner. They are, taking out the EMs. Likewise, green credit cards, when one get rewarded for buying, any environmental friendly products. This is something which, I have not seen it often, but only except in, we have metros, we travel in metros, we get some credits whenever we travel it. Apart from them, apart from that, I mean, from the bank side, I have not seen that happening, because, whenever we buy any environment friendly product through our card or from anything, we hardly get any, credit points or anything. So I really want banks to do, something about it. All right. So drivers of climate related financial risk factors for organizations. So climate risk is basically an assessment of how climate or weather related issues could impact business operations and supply chains. It is a bilateral relationship between business and climate, and climate has basically direct impact on business and operations. Uh, so climate risk can impact the financial sector through two broad channels. One is physical risk and transition risks. Physical risk is a direct risk, I can say, to businesses related to the extreme change in climate. That is, you can say, greenhouse gases emission and rising global temperatures, heat waves, landslides, wildfires, and storms, etc. Now, a physical risk, you can mitigate a few, but you have, a few risks by, having some measures in place. But by and large, these risks are, hardly mitigated. So it's tough to actually mitigate these risks. Now, coming on to the transition risk. Transition risk can occur when moving towards less polluting, greener economy. Some firms are now choosing to reduce investment into sectors like coal, etc. I'll give you the example of industries in Delhi. Since in 90s, the Delhi Pollution Control Act came into came up with this thing act that industries in Delhi should shift from coal to LNG and CNG. At that time, being the financial officer of a company in Delhi, I really faced it. It was a challenge, because we had to shift our uh, you know large number of assets to a new this thing. You can say, we shifted to LNG, CNG. The worst affected sector at that time was MSME. MSME, MSME represents a sizable portion of our economy, sizable portion of the industry, and contribute to 30% of the India's GDP and 48% of the exports. So we were, MSMEs were badly hit by these transition risks. So there is something, the government as well as banking sector should do about to mitigate the transition risk for especially for MSMEs. I'm talking about MSME because I work in PhD and we represent MSME sector by and large. So these are the drivers of climate related financial risk factors for firms. Now I will speak on green investment. Why investors these days prefer green investments. So green investment, I'll say, is a very broad term. It can be a standalone, a subset of a broader investment theme, or closely related to other investment approaches such as SRI, that is social responsible investing, that is investment in affordable housing, healthcare, education, renewable energy and sustainable farming, ESG, environmental, social and governance investing. Various, I can say, financial institutions in India offer ESG funds and mutual funds these days, because I just Mr. Gupta has told that PNB is, very active in this sector. I'm very happy to know about that because I know about some other financial institutions as well as banks. Those are by and large actively into in ESG. From the investors' perspective, why they prefer green investment? Uh, investors' attention to climate, because they are now investors are by and large are aware of green investment. Investors' attention to climate change, resource efficiency, and green issues in general has been rising in recent years, and investor initiatives in this respect are growing in support. And secondly, investors are more receptive to companies where managers disclose to society the benefits of green investments implemented by them. From the companies law point of view, I can say the Companies Act 2013 introduced one of the first ESG disclosure requirement for companies. Section 134M mandates companies to include a report by their board of directors on conservation of energy along with the annual financial statement. So, this has been incorporated into the Companies Act by Section 134M. This requirement is further detailed under Rule 8.3A of the Companies Account Rules 2014, which mandates the board to provide information regarding conservation of energy. Companies are mandated to include disclosures on opportunities, threats, risk, and concern as part of their annual report under Regulation 34.3 of SEBI, Regulation 2015. So these are the acts which mandated it to disclose environmental, social, and governance by the companies. How it is relevant if a business, I'll tell you how is it relevant for the investors. If a business is not conscious about sustainability, there are chances that either the business process might become redundant in future due to legal and regulatory challenges, which might forbid particular ways of doing business, or demand for its products or services might go down. Therefore, ESG disclosures are highly significant for investors for the following reasons. One, including climate-related consideration in asset valuation and finance allocation. Determining the environmental and social impact of a company's business process. And third, assessing how climate change could affect a company's financial ability or stability in future. So these are the reasons why investors these days prefer give preference to ESG, evolution of ESG or green investments. I have touched upon various acts which mandated it for the companies to disclose the green investment. I have touched upon why investors these days prefer green investment, and I have touched upon the difficulties our MSME sectors face for from shifting or in the whole transition process. So that is it from my side, Dr. Neelam. I think I have, whatever I said, it will make meaning to all of you. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Nitin sir, for sharing. And I would like to share something on a lighter note, what you said about Nitin sir to Gupta sir, from industry perspective or from a rather consumer's perspective to the banker. So you said about that those consumers who are using green products should get points debited in their account. So Gupta sir, please do take care of this.
Yeah, because I have seen. Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Neelam. Because I have seen that metro. Because I am the person on the ground always. You say I have seen the transition. I have seen the industries facing challenges. Getting the funds when they have to change the what they have to shift to their capex and shift their industry from coal to CNG to LNG. So the kind of challenges we faced getting the finances from banks, which is still there, let me tell you. So incentive from the government for the whole process or for the whole change is still lacking. Government has policies in place, but financial sector is not coming up forward, to mitigate those challenges for the industry.
Nitinji, let me say here that PNB is very much forward about financing of these things, and in the Corona period also GECL and CECF facility has been given to all the units, whether it is SME or the MSME.
Thank you very much for that.
So we are looking forward to the refinancing also. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nima.
And secondly, you shared about physical risk, which is difficult to mitigate, but transition risk, which can be reduced by switching over to green. That is very important and significant. And number two, you shared about ESG disclosure as per Companies Act 2013 under Section 134M. This and disclosure has equally become important for investors also today, very rightly quoted, because that I believe investors are becoming more sensible today, realizing that yes, green companies are worth investing in. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your views. So I would like to invite Dr. Pankaj Kumar Gupta, Director, Center for Management Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University, to share his enriched knowledge with us. But before that, I would like to introduce Sir to the audience. Dr. Pankaj Kumar Gupta is a postgraduate from Faculty of Commerce and Business Studies, University of Delhi, and PhD from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. He did his post-graduation in commerce from Department of Commerce and Business Studies, Delhi School of Economics. He did his cost and management accountant. He's Chartered Secretary, Institute of Company Secretaries of India, Chartered Financial Analyst, and the Institute of Chartered Financial Analyst of India, and PhD Finance, Department of Commerce, Accountancy and Business Statistics, University of Rajasthan, and he's Fellow of Insurance from Insurance Institute of India, Mumbai. He's a fellow member of the Institute of Cost and Works Accountants of India. He's fellow member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India, chartered member of the Institute of Chartered Financial Analysts of India, and fellow of the Insurance Institute of India, Mumbai. He has experience of more than 28 years in industry and academics. He has presented papers in various international conferences and has won outstanding research awards. He has organized various seminars, workshops, and management development programs in the area of finance and risk management, and has been involved in various consultancy assignments in the area of corporate restructuring. His corporate training endeavors include risk management in banks, financial risk management, project risk management, credit risk modeling, business analytics, cash flow analysis, and many more. He has to his credit several research papers and articles published in reputed journals and magazines. He is the author of 6 books, which includes Insurance and Risk Management, Essentials of Insurance and Risk Management, Banking and Insurance, Human Resource Information Systems, and Legal Aspects of Insurance. He is the founder member of Society for Professional Development, Delhi, and Delhi Professionals Association, Delhi. He has been the co-regional director of the Delhi chapter of PRMIA USA. He has been associated with various reputed academic institutions in India and abroad. His area of research interest is risk management. Thank you so much, sir, for being here, and we look forward for your valuable views to share with all of us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Neelam, and much has been said about me, but still I'm in the learning phase and always confused as an academician between risk and return.
That is so generous of you, sir.
Yes, and when it comes to the green finance system and issuance of green bonds or issuance of green products, now the first question from a being corporate finance perspective comes to mind is what is the risk and what is the return. Okay, so with this perspective that I'll give you a brief idea as an academician that what it means to the practitioners, what it means to the regulators, and what it means to the academicians. And I've seen the recent trend. Let me share with you that in lot many universities, in my university also, and the other universities where I'm in the research panel or the board of studies, there's a lot of research interest coming in green finance, and lot many PhD students are interested in green finance. So I would like to just briefly highlight some of the issues of research which may be relevant to the practitioners and relevant to the regulators. And I, being in corporate for about 11 years as company secretary, and that Nitin has said also that really interested in knowing the provisions. Okay, what it what has already been done and what is being done. Okay, with a view to regulate the green financial system, not only nationally but internationally. So I would like to briefly touch upon certain points. No? But before that, good morning to all of you, and I would like to thank the Institute for giving me opportunity and to be in this panel. And the topic of Dr. Neelam and the participants is most apt for the environment, particularly the ESG concerns. So in this perspective, I would like to highlight some important issues which are an area of concern for regulators, corporates, academicians, and practitioners. If you talk about regulation, okay, we'll find that based on the reports and researches, there is a large difference between the agreement or commitment which a nation makes for protection of environment. So you make some commitments at different places globally where the meetings are held, but what you incorporate in the legal and regulatory framework is altogether different. And the meetings are over and agreements are over, but when it comes to changing the regulation, bringing into the regulation in practice, that is what is missing. So there are a large number of researches which are saying that when it comes to regulation of banks and promotion of green finance, there is no, there is no incentive as such, no? Or the regulators even don't find any incentive, okay, to embed into the regulations. And I don't know, the motivation is lacking. This is what the reports have been saying. So it must be embedded into the regulations. And we find that in large number of countries, there is no specific or unanimously agreed, or I would say the documented policy for green finance is missing. So we don't have any specific or unanimously agreed or globally, a policy, a documented policy that this is how the things have to be done. And this is what we have to follow. Even though we have ESG in place and the companies and the nations, they are, in pursuit of that ESG group, but we find that there is no documented policy. The second point which I would like to highlight is about the risk. If we look at the green products, green products bring an element of risk and which needs a careful consideration. And from where it arises mainly due to the measurement problems during the tenure of the product. So when it comes to a green finance product, you issue a product, at that time the risk posture is different, and during the currency it is different. But how to model is an issue. So when the banks, they issue this kind of product, they have to address the issue at the start of the product when it is being floated. And this is my thinking that it should be a part of the credit policy as such, that how the credit risk arising from such product to be modeled. So we are in dire need of risk management models and classification standards for these products. In addition, we need global indicators as also highlighted by some researchers. So we don't have global indicators, sufficient global indicators for the green system. Now, if we look at researches on green finance, the focus is on the product. The focus is mainly on the product and the determining indicators. What actually happens is when we talk of green finance products, they are competing with other products in some sense. So this carries an implication in terms of interactive risk, which is happening between these products versus the green products. And as such, the issuer has to come out with new marketing strategies, because the products themselves, now, in terms of risk and return postures, they are self-competing. So this is one issue. Now for all this, we need data. The availability of models and data is very, very limited. And for example, we don't have credit scoring models for green finance, and which are required to be developed. We have come out with credit scoring models for financing of special sectors in India also and abroad, MSMEs, small micro enterprises. But as such, no definitive credit scoring models. This is what I feel for this green products, or I would say for example, green bonds. And this is because of the fact that the very nature of green products, because we are talking somewhere about sustainability, that factor comes into fact. So there's always a kind of a dichotomy between what we think and what we practice, and how the product is being viewed by the market participants. Then I would like to highlight the other issue of the corporate finance. So as an investor, we don't look into the philosophy behind the green products. You are to support the environment. You have to come out with the something that you are supporting the sustainability or ensuring the sustainability. As such, the analysis with respect to these products is not much focused and embedded into investment decisions. So the issue also raised at many times by researchers, I've seen in research papers, is can we apply the traditional models of corporate finance to green products? The answer is no. And we all agree to this notion that investment and financing decisions are closely related. So if they're closely related and we can apply traditional models, okay, then what do we do about green products? Thus, in terms of a capitalistic approach, the shareholders are mainly concerned about their needs rather than the needs of the borrowers. And these borrowers may be relatively small. So the borrower perspective in terms of green finance or green finance products must be brought into picture. This is what I feel. Now, talking about the motivation for engagement as highlighted by researchers, it can be a finance case. In finance case, we can talk about the optimizing the returns, risk return, then universal investor incentives, lowering the cost of capital and capital access. But when it comes to a business case, we are talking about branding and operational efficiency and reduction of risk. Now, in terms of institutionally oriented drivers as highlighted by researchers, this is legitimacy seeking the social license to operate and accountability and institutional pressures which are there. So if we talk about sustainability, we find a close linkage between sustainable corporate governance and green finance, and which is a matter of discussion among the industry professionals and academicians. But how do we incorporate as such in the corporate finance, gamut? No, that's not still defined nationally and internationally. And in various researches, we find that the concept of green finance has increased the value of the business by creating value to the business and increasing the long-term profitability. But again, the problem is of measurement, that how much it contributes to the market value. Thus, when the banking industry is concerned about sustainability and implementation of green finance, the value of the industry is likely to go up, but in what fashion the banks have to decide. The other perspective which I would like to highlight is the national perspective. We can see the growth of green bonds in India and China, but what actually makes a bond green? Okay, that is not very regulated and very clearly defined. Even though ICM has come out with some principles, so-called as green bond principles, but these are voluntary in nature. And as per the statistics which I've seen, that Indian companies have raised 7 billion through ESG and green bonds in 2021 compared to the figures of 1.4 billion and 4 billion in 2020-19. But India as such, we are third level, I mean, in third position as far as the greenhouse gas emissions are concerned. So we have entered into Paris Agreement for the period 2021 to 2030 to reduce the emissions intensity of GDP by 33%. However, we need, a lot of funding capabilities to support the green initiatives. So how we are going to do that now? That is also an area of issue, and meet the international obligations. One thing that, if we want to green the financial sector, the government needs to focus on the funds like pension funds and insurance companies, no? And can improve and they can increase the level of private sector investment by the tax liabilities or by tax incentives. And central banks globally can harmonize the standards, no, for building the confidence, no, in the green products and ease the decision making. When it comes to the ESG concerns, we need to build reporting standards for green finance. So these are some of the important issues which need a lot of research and deliberation, which I feel. Let me summarize what I've said in short. The first is about the regulation. Regulation which is missing. The second is about the risk aspect relating to green products. The other is the view on corporate finance, that can we look green financial system or green products from corporate finance perspective. Then another is that when it comes to green finance, what is the national perspective and how the banks should position these products, no, in the eyes of investors. What should be the reporting standards for this, and what should be the government role in promoting the green financial system. So these are some of the issues which need discussion and deliberation. So so with these words, I end my discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Kumar sir, for sharing it. It reflects your research competence in terms of bringing in green also, quantification issues, standardization issues, measurement issues with respect to credit risk. So this is totally new aspect which you have thrown light on, that green products have risk parameter also, and which needs to be measured. That is, there has to be some defined model for credit risk from the financial institution perspective that can reduce their probability of risk and exposure at default. And then you have said about that, yes, fine, green bonds definitely is increasing in the market, but there should be defined, universally defined, standardized norms. And then other thing which you have highlighted is about incentive should be embedded in the regulation system, which can help to nudge people to go for, yes, we have to go for more green, whether it is about anyone, any of the stakeholders in the economy. And then very interesting factor which you shared here is interaction between risk between green versus non-green products in the market. Anyone who is proposing these products, they have to compete with non-green. And so they have to re-strategize their framework of marketing strategy also, and should be redefined. And then this is very important, is about investment and financing. These two cannot be taken in silos. These two go hand in hand, which you have highlighted. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable views and bringing it to a new perspective to green bonds and highlighting so many things. Thank you so much, and we look forward for many more sessions with you, sir, in future also. Thank you so much. Okay, so good morning, Mr. Gaurav. Good morning. So now I would like to invite Mr. Gaurav Kulshrestha. He's Senior Vice President, Citibank, India, Mumbai. I take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Gaurav Kulshrestha, Senior Vice President, Citibank. He's the Head of Investment Business and Strategy at Citibank India for last 8 years. He has over 2 decades of experience spanning across wealth management, investment strategy, stock broking, structured lending, and investment banking. He has rich experience in leading and managing financial services business across capital market segments. He has worked with leading private and investment banks, NBFCs, and brokerage houses like Citibank, Morgan Stanley, Edelweiss, Enam, and India Bulls. He's an MBA Finance and has completed the executive program in Applied Finance from IIM Calcutta and is also pursuing PhD in the area of bank risk management. He has also successfully completed various MDPs from the Wharton Business School, Pennsylvania, Indian School of Business, and Hong Kong University in the field of investment management, asset allocation, performance management, and manager selection. Thank you so much, Mr. Gaurav. And we look forward from you to get more insights about sustainable investment landscape in India.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn, and thank you, James, for providing this opportunity, to speak at this conference with such elite, erudite individuals. I will be specifically talking about funding a greener world and making a safe giveaway between global green financing requirements and the investors. Dear friends, when it comes to climate change, this is a decisive decade for humanity. We are truly at a crossroads and there is no going back. At the recently concluded COP26 at Glasgow, Mr. Alok Sharma, the UK president of COP26, said, "We can now say with credibility that we have kept 1.5 degrees alive, but its pulse is weak and it will only survive if we keep our promises and translate commitments into rapid action." Decarbonizing the world requires nothing short of a great transformation of the global economy with no single silver bullet. Just imagine the current world energy manufacturing and mobility infrastructure has been built around fossil fuels for the past many centuries. We are now trying to do a complete overhaul of it in a few decades. This is a gargantuan task, but there is no turning back and room for error is limited. Financing is particularly important as many green technologies require large upfront capital costs versus low to zero or even negative marginal costs. This may be, in fact, be the first time there are both trillions of dollars of demand for capital for green projects, as well as investors' demand for green projects. There is a growing pipeline of green projects that require investments and a growing line of investors looking to invest in broad ESG-aligned opportunities. In COP26 also, finance was extensively discussed throughout the session, and there was consensus in the need to continue increasing support to developing countries. The call to at least double finance for adaptation was welcomed by the parties. The duty to fulfill the pledge of providing $100 billion annually from developed to developing countries was also reaffirmed. Now, financing, as we've seen, is so important. And just to look at ballpark numbers, while the annual spend on climate change is only about $600 billion, the total requirement of green investment needed is around $120 to $150 trillion from now till 2050. There is a massive investment gap that must be closed to meet the climate goals. And perhaps as much as $3 to $5 trillion per year of gap needs to be plugged. Public sector investments is crucial, but boosting private investments is critical too. and policy innovation as well as financial innovation are needed to boost private investment in green financing. According to an analysis by climate energy research firm Council for Energy, Environment and Water Research, which is a New Delhi-based entity, India will need close to $10 trillion to meet its global goal of net zero, which it has committed at COP26 by 2070. Now, there are encouraging trends, despite this stark gap, there are encouraging trends in investments. Many investors now recognize the embedded risk that climate change represents in their portfolios and are looking to deploy capital to align with their values and participate in the energy transition. Renewable energy funds, particularly solar, had incredibly strong year, with several providing returns of more than about 100%. Strong investor interest is also critical, as demand for private funding to finance the transformation to 1.5 degree will remain after the COVID-19 crisis subsides. Policymakers across the globe are keen to attract private finance green support and enhance this shift to sustainable finance, driven by the scale of funding needed to meet their commitment under the Paris Agreement. A more recent study found the volume of financing focused especially on enabling climate change mitigation necessary to achieve a scenario of limiting temperature to 1.5 degrees as about $150 trillion. Now, beyond the investment requirement in renewables and energy storage, funds are also needed to finance water efficiency and recovery, sustainable agricultural system and mitigation erosion, as well as funding the shift to circular economy, which includes recycling of everything we use. Although renewables such as onshore wind, solar are on equal footing in terms of cost, the payback period for such renewables can be much, much longer, and hence these require particular interest. Now, aware of these challenges that public sector alone cannot meet this funding challenge, policymakers have sought to stimulate private finance through development of a range of policies. These range from widespread use of feed-in tariffs to subsidize the development of wind and solar energy, production to tax breaks for renewable energies, and the will of governments is clearly evident. Now, also to a certain extent, policymakers are knocking on open doors because investors are already sold on the idea of green financing and the benefits it can accrue to investors. ESG funds under management continue to grow, demonstrating that the continuing interest of both both investors and corporates to participate in green asset revolution is intact and alive. As per Global Sustainable Investment Alliance, GSIA, sustainable investments across global investment industry has reached or topped $35 trillion, equating to almost 36% of all professionally managed assets. Sustainable investment is actually an investment approach that considers environmental, social, and governance, and not just climate change factors into portfolio selection and management across 7 defined strategies that have been highlighted in GSIA's document. The term sustainable investment may be used interchangeably with responsible investment or social investment or any other terms. But the trend is on the upside in terms of incorporating these aspects into investments. More and more asset owners now want to see corporates align their business models with the Paris targets, and increasingly asset managers are providing, by reshaping their investment strategies to enhance their exposures to greener assets and sending strong signals to corporate issuers that they need to address the climate risk on their balance sheet. This shift has been demonstrated by asset managers looking to place sustainability at the center of their investment approach. While these measures have attracted initial levels of private finance, they have been inconsistent and unpredictable, and have not sufficiently addressed the barriers to investment that potential investors in green projects face. To attract staggering additional sums required for the transformation of a global economy, built on burning fossil fuels to a net zero carbon one, a raft of new policy interventions will be needed, and perhaps a similar transformation in the mindset of investors and politicians and industry. Now, just to highlight some of the hurdles that we face, and some of these have been highlighted by my colleague speakers. Despite the strong commitment to Paris agenda and regulatory and public pressures to show their sustainability credentials, banks and investors still struggle to increase their funding of green assets. While the need for capital to underwrite green projects is clearly there, the allocation of capital to these projects is a niche, but albeit growing pursuit among investors. So it's not yet caught up the fancy of everyone, but a specific category of niche investors are looking into it, and that needs to be broad-based. The hurdles to investing in green projects are also significant for corporate banks and investors. For corporates, the return on capital typically produced by green assets is over a longer term and maybe over a lower internal rate of return than more traditional energy and infrastructure investments have had historically. So that needs to be digested by investors and corporates. The need for longer term finance also deters banks from providing the requisite capital for these projects. Even with the best of will and intent, large investors also frequently have concentration limits on exposures such as to green finance projects. And that also impedes too much of capital to be allocated from these niche category of investors. The increased risk has significant implications for key funders as well, who act as fiduciary and therefore cannot take risks in significant tranches of their portfolios and finance these projects. The lack of liquidity of green projects is a further factor as to why investors have been reluctant to fund them. Many financial institutions have fiduciary and prudential obligations, and in the wake of number of well-publicized problems with retail investment funds, like the Greensill ones, we've had our own problems in Indian fund market, debt fund side. Regulators are naturally stepping in, and reporting requirements now include how much illiquid exposures do funds have, and this will have a limiting impact on green investments as well. Now, the other aspect of hurdles is a lack of agreement on what is green, and that also creates uncertainty for investors. The EU's taxonomy is an important step in the right direction, as discussed, by earlier members. But even the passage of such comprehensive classification system into law can create some uncertainty, because people who have, or investors who have already invested in certain projects, and if their projects become not green, then it will have ramifications for future investments from these investors as well. There is also, some apprehension about inflationary impact of greening the world, which is a separate debate altogether. But nevertheless, that has also caught fancy of markets. Now, the regulatory response to these hurdles has been very, very positive. While different jurisdictions have placed emphasis on different elements, there's a broad consensus around the need to reorient capital flows towards sustainable investments. As Mark Carney, the former governor of Bank of England, expressed while launching COP26, we will work with you, the private sector, to put in place the frameworks so that you can do what you do best, allocate capital to manage risks, and seize opportunities across the economy to help unlock the private financial flows that are vital to the transition. This will support a wider shift to Paris alignment. Now, some of the suggestions that I would put forward, along with the already underway policy actions, are that while much of the attention has been focused, on efforts to develop a common definition of what constitutes sustainable investment, which is a critical task. However, policymakers, investors, banks, and corporates agree on the need for a common taxonomy. And these needs to be addressed on priority, because there is a growing concern that even though there is a common taxonomy being developed, many individual jurisdictions are paying insufficient attention to aligning their own taxonomies to these developing common taxonomies. So this needs immediate attention from various policymakers. EU has taken, quite a lead in climate change and climate finance issues, and they have demonstrated the seriousness of its drive to take global leadership on the sustainable finance policy and establishment of international platform for sustainable finance, which it gives the ultimate objective as to scale up the mobilization of private capital towards environmentally sustainable investments. Development of uniform carbon trading mechanisms to help provide market-based equilibrium is also an important aspect that needs to be looked at. Another interesting area which has not yet been talked about much is kind of a green quantitative easing, where central banks can participate in green financing and money create and it was proposed by a UK group, where money creation by Bank of England that would pay for the decarbonization of the economy, rather than as was the case during and after the financial crisis, being pumped into the banking system alone. So that's an interesting area where investors are also discussing that can this be made into a mainstream idea, where central banks can start participating and encouraging through quantitative easing some kind of green investments. Another level, another lever to facilitate green investments could be the capital relief for banks and other financial intermediaries for those projects exposure that qualify as green. Currently, despite the different risk profile, there is no incentive other than the societal good for banks to increase their funding of green infrastructure. And I think this was just talked about, my previous, colleague, Professor Pankaj. And it remains a critical aspect that needs to be looked at. Now we remain optimistic on the world, will tide over this mammoth funding gap and provide adequate financing to green investments and green strategies and climate change. And there is increasing, talk about not just direct project finance, but also to develop the ecosystem of primary and secondary market for raising both debt and equity funds, to meet this funding gap. And that remains a critical area that over and all, just looking at financing the projects directly, providing liquidity through secondary markets to existing investments would also become critical in providing, an overall ecosystem. In India, we are at a very nascent stage, while, large investors, family offices and institutions are committing and asking for a lot of opportunities and products for green investments, but it is yet to percolate down into the broader investment network. Interestingly, India also has a index like the Nifty 50 index. We now have a Nifty 100 enhanced ESG index, which is designed to reflect the performance of companies based on their ESG scores. And we have been looking at this index, and the returns of this index is fairly in line or better than the normal indices. So this should also help get investors convinced that sustainability investing is the future of investment, and there could be enough and more capital generated to bridge the gap. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gaurav, for giving us such a huge insight about investment options and constraints, challenges, whether it is from perspective of banks, policymakers, and what central bank can do to help even primary market and secondary market to infuse liquidity in the market, and taxonomy, also common taxonomy. Yes, it is there, but as you quoted, that policy measures have been to be taken to bring it streamlined in jurisdiction to work on that front. I would like to share what you quoted about that niche investors are only looking for investing in green projects. And this has to be, we have to bring width and by width and depth also from the investor's perspective to invest in green segment. That will infuse liquidity. And as you quoted, that risk appetite is also still low, because lenders also have that perception that if they lend and if there's not enough liquidity, they may default. So that also can be taken care. So thank you so much for giving us huge insight about investment options and challenges and constraints and how to overcome them also. Thank you so much. Actually honored to introduce Professor Anil Kumar, sir. He's a professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce. To the audience, I want to introduce sir. And he will be sharing his views on green financing policy initiative and challenges. Professor Anil Kumar is a professor at Sri Ram College of Commerce, University of Delhi. He is an alumnus of SRCC and Harvard Business School. He did his post-graduation in commerce from Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. He was awarded a PhD degree by the University of Delhi for his thesis on corporate governance. Dr. Kumar has contributed a number of research articles in national and international journals. He has presented his research work at international conferences in India and abroad, and has conducted several executive development and training programs for government officers, corporate executives, and directors. He is a leading consultant for higher education and corporate social responsibility. He founded Shala, launched by then Union Finance Minister Mr. Arun Jaitley, to spread financial education across nook and corner of the country. He has over 30 years experience of teaching, research, training, and consultancy. His area of specialization is corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, and higher education. His subject experts is in corporate governance, corporate laws, and corporate social responsibility, and research expertise is in corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, and financial literacy. He has authored 8 books in audit and corporate governance, business ethics and corporate social responsibility, capital market, company and compensation laws. His book on performance effects of corporate governance code 2014, Scholars Press Saarbrücken, Germany, has been acknowledged worldwide. He's a national executive member of Indian Accounting Association. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your time, and we look forward for your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The pleasure is that of mine only. And thank you for inviting me and giving this opportunity to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Satish Sethi, Professor Ashok Sharma, Director of GIMS, Professor Neelam Tandon, co-panelist of the session, organizing team, and participants of this international seminar. Green finance, this theme of today's seminar, is very recent, and I think that this is how the awareness about financing the green projects would to some extent increase. And it's a good service to the nation and to the world economy towards the sustainable development. Green finance, of course, is I'm the last speaker, and I think most of the things have already been covered. I'll just give a brief outline and the policy initiatives which have been taken in our country, and what are the challenges which are facing in the field of green financing. This is, of course, gaining prominence as a priority for public policy in India and abroad also. While public awareness and funding alternatives have improved all over the world, including in India, reducing the asymmetric information via improved information system and more cooperation amongst the stakeholders. And that may pave the way for greener and more sustainable long-term economic growth. Green finance, as all of us are aware, this is the financial arrangement is specific to the projects which are environmentally sustainable or projects that adopt the aspect of climate change. Now, these kind of projects include the production of energy from renewable sources like solar, wind, biogas, and the hydrogen is the latest one. Clean transportation. Now, more and more focus is on electrical vehicles in India and other countries also that involves lower greenhouse gas emission. That has become, very top topic of different countries and environmentalists specifically. And then the energy efficient projects like green building, waste management that includes recycling, efficient disposal, and conversion to energy, etc. So, why this green financing is important? To ensure a steady flow of finance into sustainable projects only. That would involve that reliable information on the entity's overall management of environmental and social risk, track record of the entities, identification of the opportunities that bring decent rate of return and benefits to the environment. These are some of the aspects which have to be covered in financing. Like we evaluate the projects, and for evaluating the green projects, green financing, these are the important aspects which become very important in evaluation of the projects. In this regard, as has been talked about by the previous speaker also, Sustainable Stock Exchange is an initiative that recommends the signatory countries' stock exchanges to come up with stock price indices that track the stock performance of set of companies operating in these countries, which are leaders in recognizing the ESG, environmental, social, and governance principles into their financing aspects. These indices are aimed at guiding the investors. For financing, this is very important that there is no information asymmetry, that all kind of information is available. So the ESG principles, whether is followed or not, the stock price indices are aimed at guiding the investors who are interested in making investment in green initiatives. Two major stock exchanges of our country, that is BSE and National Stock Exchange, these are the part of this initiative and publish separate ESG indices. The leading stock exchanges, the financial market regulators, and the ministries dealing with corporate affairs in China, Hong Kong, India, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore are among the nations to implement the framework for disclosure of ESG related risk by the listed companies in their jurisdictions. Now let's examine what is the public policy of regarding green financing in India. The Reserve Bank of India has been taking proactive policy measures to promote and support the green finance initiatives. It included, the small renewable energy sector under priority lending scheme. And that was done in the year 2015. Under this scheme, firms in the renewable energy sector are eligible for loans up to rupees 30 crore. And this 30 crore was increased in the year 2020. Before that, it was 15 crore. The households are eligible for loans up to rupees 10 lakhs for investing into renewable energy. In September 2019, India announced a target to reach 450 gigawatt of renewable energy generation by the year 2030. There is one project, Kusum, which has been successfully launched, wherein the subsidy is given by the central government and the state government to install the solar energy equipment, specifically the solar pumps, to replace the diesel sets. And this project Kusum has been very successful, and this is a part of, in fact, green financing initiative. Next initiative is that of electrical vehicles, that is EV, popularly known as. The government of India intends to have EV sales penetration of about 30% for private cars, 70% for the commercial vehicles, 40% for the buses, and 80% for 2- and 3-wheelers by the year 2030. The government is supporting the localization of all EV components. The financing for those companies which are manufacturing the EV component has been eased now, and rupees 57,000 crore has been allotted to same under PLI scheme. This scheme is applicable to about 13 industries, that is production linked incentive scheme. So the solar energy is included under the PL scheme. The government has also allocated rupees 18,100 crore for the manufacturing of advanced battery cells. Now, India has the potential to become the #1 EV maker in the world. So let's see that by the maybe next 5 to 10 years, we will become the #1 manufacturer of EV vehicles in the country. The central government offers many incentives to EV makers under the scheme called FAME2 scheme that provides impetus, including financing to transition for individual manufacturing of the EVs, and which make EVs more affordable also. At the same time, the subsidies are given by the state governments, and Delhi is the leading example that which provides incentives up to rupees 5,000 per kilowatt hour and a maximum of rupees 30,000. And this is besides that there is a less amount of the registration taxes for the EV vehicles. Maharashtra is another state which has provided these kind of incentives. Hydrogen mission. In this Independence Day speech, our Prime Minister announced the launching of hydrogen mission. And very soon we will find that these kind of initiatives and projects starting up, and the financing, different kind of financing would be thought of. So that is another area of green finance. We have about a scheme of having 100 smart cities, and most of those smart cities would be based on the green kind of projects, renewable energy also, the solid waste management, all the aspects to have the long-term sustainability and to protect the environmental damage and to promote the and to have the feeling of climate change. These are going to be the part of the smart city mission. Now, what has been the progress of green financing in India? #1 is about green lending. As part of green finance initiative, the Reserve Bank of India has included, as I've told just now, small renewable energy sector under priority lending scheme in 2015. Now, as at the end of March 2020, the aggregate bank credit to the non-conventional energy sector, that was around 36,543 crore, a very big amount, but it constituted only 7.9% of the outstanding bank credit to the power generation. And it was, just 4 point something in March 2015. Another initiative is that of green bonds. I don't know whether it has been discussed before or not, but green bonds are the bonds which are issued by the sovereign entity, intergovernment groups or alliances or the corporates, with the aim that proceeds from those bonds will be utilized for the projects which are classified as environmentally sustainable. India started issuing green bonds in the year 2015. As of February 12th, 2020, the outstanding amount of green bonds in India was the US dollar 16.3 billion. India issued green bonds of about US dollar 8 billion since January 1st, 2018, which constituted only, of course, just 0.7% of all the bonds issued in the Indian financial market. And all of us know that the bond market in India is yet to be developed, but we are issuing the green bonds and the share of green bond is increasing year by year. That's, I think, encouraging sign. It has, of course, constituted a very small portion of the total bonds, but let me tell you that the position of our country is favorable as compared to several advanced and emerging economies of the world. Still, we are better placed when it comes to issuing of the green bonds. So, of course, green finance in India is at a very, I can say, introductory stage. Like green bonds, as I said, constituted only about 0.7% of all the bonds issued in the country since 2018. And bank lending for the green projects is only about 7.9% of the total outstanding bank credit. There are some challenges which we need to consider, and those challenges need to be met. First is the borrowing cost for the green bonds have remained more expensive than the traditional bonds in India. These are basically issued by the public sector units or the financially sound companies only. Second aspect is, the second challenge we can say is that the high borrowing cost may be because of, as I said in the very beginning, because of asymmetric knowledge. That means we will have to work on improving the information system that may reduce the maturity mismatches, borrowing cost, and lead to more effective resource allocation. Then is the market infrastructure development. Given the scale of domestic market and low penetration of green instruments, there are many tremendous prospects. Various studies conferred the significance of better coordination between investment and environmental policies. I think there's a need of the hour that there has to be better coordination between investment and environmental policies. Let those policies be connected to each other and reinforce each other. Then the national level policy and at the same time, the state level policy should be implemented. Let these policies not focus only on the solar energy or only on the electric vehicles. We have to think the green financing in totality. We have to think the green projects in all aspects of the environment. We need, of course, legislative actions for expanding the corporate bond market, standardizing the green investment language. This is very much needed, that the investment language for the financing of the green projects, that must be standardized. Then at the same time, this corporate reporting, when we talk about this green reporting, that must also be standardized. And at the same time, the investor recipient information asymmetry is to be eliminated. So that could help in improving the market weaknesses to a larger extent. Now, another public policy options are to work with the industry groups that are working to expand the green buildings that use less water, less energy, manage the waste in a better way, and create healthier living conditions. The impact on supply chain, inflationary pressure, and fiscal consolidation may be addressed through well-balanced fiscal initiatives for green projects in India. So in the last, I would like to conclude that green financing in India is quickly becoming a public priority. Data shows that public knowledge and financial choices have improved in recent years in India. Better information management and stakeholders collaboration might lead to more sustainable economic growth. COVID-19 and its influence on the global economic growth are constantly under threat. The urgent policy task is to jumpstart the global economy. The epidemic has forced all the stakeholders to reconsider their current policies, the financial and operational plans, and adopt the more ecologically friendly strategy. So green financing undoubtedly is an essential tool for promoting the sustainable economic growth, not only in this country, but for the world economy. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share briefly my thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Anilji. Very, very comprehensive, very, very informative. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anil sir, for sharing such valuable insights with all of us. You started from the nascent stage where we are today in terms of green financial system, and you have shared about how we can develop a more aware and inclusive with all the collaborators, stakeholders collaboration to make India more sustainable by opting for green products and services. I would like to share a few things which you have shared over here. One, you said about banks going for priority sector lending by giving incentive to small renewable energy sector. And Nalini ma'am has also shared the same thing for 30 crore and for the household segment also. Then you have shared about stock performance, which prior speakers have also, Gaurav has also shared about that stock markets should be more, we should have to bring more depth in the market for making people aware about, because only niche set of investors are aware about it. And another factor which you highlighted was that there should be coordination between investment policy and environment policy, and it should be leading to reinforcement to self and sustainable development, as well as you have also shared that national as well as state level policy should also be aligned along with legislative action, which can bring things more streamlined. And last not the least, what you shared was about that industries which are going for more green should be highlighted on indexes, our basic index to indices, so that it becomes investors can also know about that how the market is performing. So thank you so much for your presence and sharing so valuable views. Thank you so much, sir. Now, before I request Dr. Ashok Sharma, Director GEMS Kalkaji, to extend a vote of thanks to esteemed panel members and all present today, I would like to introduce sir to the audience. Dr. Ashok Sharma, Professor Marketing and Strategy and Director Jagannath International Management School, Kalkaji, has a doctoral degree in the area of marketing. He is a multidisciplinary expert with masters in computer science also. Dr. Sharma is a certified case study method teacher from Harvard Business School, Publishing House, and Microsoft trained faculty. With more than 22 years of experience in industry, academics, research, training, and consulting, Dr. Sharma specializes in the area of marketing, digital marketing, and strategy. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Neelam. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be extending a vote of thanks to this such an enlightened panel who's there. I feel privileged to propose a vote of thanks on this topic, which is quite contemporary, chasing the horizon green financial system. While you are working across onto the topic, like we zeroed down onto the green financial system, that this is going to be something which is going to be there, but finding the right words in order to express that what it would be there became a very, very challenging and daunting thought processing task for us all. Then we identified, yes, there is a horizon and we need to chase it. So I'm pretty thankful to all of our panelists. Like they have given us wonderful insights and different perspectives. This was our sole objective actually for the International Finance Seminar, that we should be able to have people from the corporates who are giving the corporate perspective. We should have bankers who are giving the banking perspective. We should have academics who are giving the academics perspective, so that we all are actually able to understand the different perspectives and come out with an understanding about it. This is an emerging area, and definitely this is going to be the future. We all understand, the stock markets are also understanding. That is why the theme indexes are being created around this, as our honorable panelists have already been talking about it. So overall, what we see across is the future is here to come, and definitely pandemic has making it happen at a faster pace. So I'm thankful to all our panelists. Mr. Bharat, CFO from Mahindra and Mahindra, he shared his insights at how the Mahindra Group is actually initiating these green initiatives. Dr. Tripathi, Dean IIM Shillong, I'm thankful to the ma'am for sparing time with us. Definitely she put across wonderful information regarding the finance area and how as a country, we are into a process of learning. So we are learning continuously and we are growing continuously. Similarly, I would like to thank Dr. Raj Singh, Professor of Practice at University of California, Riverside, for sharing the US perspective on the green finance. Definitely developed nations, they have been doing a lot of things in the area of green finance, but we are pretty sure, in India also, we would be making a mark. Similarly, Mr. Bmk Gupta, DGM PNB, shared initiatives of the PNB. That means Indian banks are also understanding the green movement that we are in. They are really making the funds available, whether it is for e-vehicles, for the energy efficient buildings, or even when we are saying that we are moving on to the digital banking, definitely a small contribution is done through that itself. Dr. Pankaj Gupta, with this research initiative, gave us a good thought of processes. He talked about the national perspectives of reporting. He talked about the green bonds. He talked about the regulations that are to put in their place, and definitely the transparency that needs to be put across. Our own CA, Dr. Mr. Nitin from PhD Chamber of Commerce, he actually put across the pain areas of MSME. It's not only the bigger corporates who actually are being put across into the grills of this sustainability and then getting into the green financing. So that means the MSME also are going to be part of it, or definitely they are facing a lot of challenges. And all those challenges which they were actually facing across, I'm pretty sure the address of Professor Anil Kumar and Mr. Gaurav Kulshestra from Citibank, they have addressed both of these issues in a wonderful way. They highlighted the various policy initiatives which are there. They have highlighted the gaps which are existing in terms of investment. They have highlighted the opportunities which are there within this particular domain. So whether it is in terms of regulation, whether in terms of the business opportunity or the finance opportunity which are available. So we see this as a risk and an opportunity both. So I thank to all of my honorable speakers for sparing time. Without them, this entire International Finance Seminar would never have been successful. It was a great learning for us all of our students, alumni, and all other delegates who have participated in that. I'm pretty sure they had a wonderful takeaway out of this, and they would be now more aware, and they would be putting across more interest and following this topic, and definitely contributing to certain end. Like, this is one different perspective that definitely the global scenario is also looking forward for. And through this seminar, we are able to actually put across this information to all of our stakeholders. I would also like to thank our chairman, Dr. Bmk Gupta, for giving us the vision and direction to come out with this seminar. He has been guiding us and motivating us to go ahead. All of our governing body members who always push us around to actually get across onto these new things, come across with the new initiatives, and definitely, like, within our small means, we try to make a difference coming out of it. I would like to thank Dr. Satish Seth, advisor to our chairman and former Director General of GIMS Kalkaji. He has been a mentor to this entire seminar, and he has been guiding us across that how to make it a world class. And in the end, I would like to thank the entire organizing team headed by Dr. Neelam Tandon for making this entire thing happen. All the finance club students and all of our students and alumni of GIMS Kalkaji who actually are available here, and those student volunteers who are providing technical support to make this thing happen. So again, I like to thank all of our panelists who have shared their valuable views, and definitely in futures to come, we would like to hear more from them, getting more insights and more details about how this entire green finance actually is taking shape. Thanks a lot, sir.
I want to say something, sir. Thank you to Director Sir also, and to Dr. Deepak Tandon, Professor from IMI, because he made me connect to all dignitaries over here. Whether it was about Bharat Sir, Nalini Ma'am, Bmk Gupta Sir, Pankaj Sir, Gaurav Sir, Anil Kumar Sir, and thank you to Nitin Sir, because I could connect to him because of PhD. So thank you to all once again, to Commander Sir for guiding us, to Director Sir for supporting us, and Chairman Sir to giving us, he's our mentor, helping us at each and every time. So thanks once again to all, and to students and faculty members also. Thank you so much.